Annual Conference. Lots happening, and we've got a friend of the show. We've had him the one time, and he, excited a number of you guys, and that's Memory. And Memory, thank you very much for joining us again. It's always a pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much.
Always look forward to some of your more thought-provoking X comments. You're continuously prolific on X, and thank you very much for sharing some of your, tidbits and pearls of wisdom.
Thank you.
Yeah, we enjoy it. Maybe you want to start by just going through your process of, when you post. What's your intention?
Okay, so my intention when I post is I am actually basing those on lived experiences. What I'm seeing with my clients, what I'm also seeing people struggling with. For example, when I look at hiring is a problem across Zimbabwe. Most people struggle. They do it the wrong way. They hire the wrong people. They blame other people when they should actually have done it properly. That's number one. The second one is leadership. There are problems around who gets into leadership. Sometimes we do it for convenience rather than the people who actually have got the capacity. Sometimes we promote the people that speak the most, who are very talkative, the ones that end up in leadership. You know what is called the bubble hypothesis, where if you speak a lot, people say this is the leader, instead of actually identifying someone who actually can lead. We have seen it where you find that the best salesperson is promoted to a sales manager. And you're actually killing the business by doing that. The best salesperson must remain the best salesperson. The leader must emerge out of those people. There are some people who don't sell that much, but they actually lead better. Yeah, and there's also
and they're different skill sets.
Yeah, they are different skill sets. Yeah, so we always promote people at the highest level of incompetence based on previous record.
True, but I would like to push back slightly there because if I look at a number of HR experts like yourself, we've learned more from your postings, and there are some people who may be more competent than you, but they don't post, so we never get to know of them. We never get to know of their thinking. And I think that part of why we think that you're great is because you're able to articulate what those issues are. So we get to hear you. And if you don't speak, well, we never get to hear it.
So you see that for me, it's a deliberate approach that I have taken, that I want to share what I know over what I've accumulated over the past 20 years. Naturally, because I've been in consulting for a while. And if you're in consulting, you're inclined to share the lessons, because I'm not learning from one organization. I'm learning from various organizations. I can be an HR manager in one organization. The only thing that I know is what is happening in that organization. I'm amalgamating experiences across organizations. When I'm sharing, most of the time I'm sharing things that are generalizable to many organizations. But I can't depend on one experience in one organization, then generalize it. That's why I share a lot. But if I had not gone into consulting...
But we're saying we get to see your competence. So it could be there's some HR expert out there who is more competent
than me,
but they're unable to articulate, or they're afraid of X.
But you know what that is called? It's called verbal reasoning. Okay, verbal reasoning is not the ability to speak English, but the logic in what you write and say. There are people who speak English very well, but they can't. I'm sure I have heard people who speak very well, good English, but there's no logic in what they're saying. Despite all this
word salad.
Yeah, word salad. Yeah, that's the correct one. Yeah, so people mistake. Well, this is the danger. You will find that when you go into interviews, for example, those word salad that is talking about tend to be rated higher because they speak with an accent. But the people who actually speak logic sometimes don't get rated that high. So there is a difference. Those people, if I were to test them on verbal reasoning, most of the people that speak very well, they fail.
Okay, I will still push back.
So anyway, this is an interesting segue. You know, and this comment has been made about politicians, right? Because the skill set to win an election and the skill to actually run any organization or institution is different, right? So you have these great orators winning elections, and then they have absolutely abhorrent outcomes as the heads of whatever public office they're running.
Doing a job for most roles, it requires the brain.
Yes,
there are people who can do all those things, speaking, but they don't have the capacity. to be able to think. Because remember, your cognitive capacity is your ability to learn, think, and find solutions to problems. There are people who just don't have the capacity, and it's documented in psychology. We're all different. And there are people, we must acknowledge that some people don't have. But the problem now is that we think everyone has got it.
And to bring it back to the business world, the other curious observation is if you think about the dichotomy between professional managers as CEOs and founders, right? One of the things that you often find is like if you listen to a Zuckerberg or a Larry Page address a room, they're not the most articulate people, right? Professional managers are excellent. You put them in front of a room, they're brilliant speakers, and so
you see, if you go back to research on interviews, job interviews, you will find that people who are articulate, who speak well, they are rated higher even if they are not saying a lot of sense. That's the challenge. That is one of the weaknesses of a job interview. That it tend to rate people who speak well, people who are pretty, people who are handsome. They get rated higher, and there's enough.
I actually think that's why I would like to push back. I actually think that there's value.
You know what? In speaking
in speaking well, because the ability to speak well, because remember, the way the brain is processing things is gibberish in the head. And then the ability to find the right words, the ability to communicate, and the ability to resonate with a crowd. So if I look at your post on X, right, I would rate you higher than somebody who may technically be better than you, but they're unable to articulate and to resonate with an audience. And that ability to resonate with an audience, to me, is something that I find valuable. And remember, as human beings, from time immemorial or from an evolutionary biology perspective, we've been communicating not by what we think, but by our voices, our facial expressions. And that, I think, is...
We actually agree. We actually agree that there are people who speak sense, what I call verbal reasoning. Then there are people who just talk. Okay, that's the difference between the... I'm sure I have listened to people and say, look, this makes a lot of sense. Then there are some people who say, what is he trying to say? You understand? That's the difference that is there. And it's all documented that there are those differences. We call them individual differences.
Okay, so let's then pick on what Rufaro has said. Between the professional manager and an entrepreneur. How can you then distinguish that this person actually knows what they're talking about and this person is just pure
Let's start
gibberish?
with the best rate of managerial incompetence, what the way it is. Long back in the 50s, they used to say it's about 10%. Now it's 50%. Because largely of the way we move people into managerial roles.
Okay.
You are an engineer, best engineer will promote into a manager. Okay? But you may not have the skill set to be a manager. And most of the time, if you look at some of the studies that have been done, you'll find that we don't prepare people to be managers. We wake up one day and say, oh, this is brilliant. Come to my office. Here's the letter. You're now the manager. Okay, they struggle to manage the other people. They struggle to plan and all the other things. But for companies that have actually got a process of developing managers way, way ahead of their appointment, they tend to get the best managers. Look at the Anglos in the long time back. They used to do it very well. That's what is required. But now people don't have a structure. So I'm desperate. John has left. I bring in Sekai to come and fill in that role.
Okay. So there are two ways in which we can look at it. And I suppose you're looking at it from a technical perspective. I can look at it from a market perspective. And I can just say, who is the most successful? I really don't care how you organize yourself and what the bureaucracy looks like, but I just look at your market cap. So if I look at Google and I look at NVIDIA, I will say NVIDIA is more successful. So maybe what they're doing is right. Is that a correct way of interpreting it? And what are the limitations of looking at it from that perspective?
So the challenge, as you go, boss, we were talking about ordinary managers. For ordinary managers, that's where the failure rate is much higher. At the CEO level, there is enough evidence that shows that the people that succeed at CEO level, if you look at the CEO Genome Project, which is the largest study done on CEO performance and what drives their performance, you'll notice that it's not about the degree that they have, it's the ability to make decisions very quickly without delay. That's one of reliability and focus on performance. Those are the three that are top on that. But when you go down, you would need someone who can supervise other people. At CEO level, you don't need someone who supervises people. The CEO is advised by direct reports. Okay, so if I'm an HR manager, I advise the CEO about HR, not the other way around.
Okay.
But if you're a sales manager, you need to plan territory, plan whatever is need to be done. So it's your directional supervision is down. The other one is basically.
So you're actually saying it's directly related to IQ?
Yes, it is by far. You can go anywhere. If you don't have it there, you can. By far. By far, you have seen it. Just look around in your family, everywhere. It's there. Yeah, but the people, you know what the problem is? No one wants to be called, to be told that you're not as sharp as the other person. But we know that go and look at any research, cognitive ability is the top predictor, whether it's entrepreneurial or whatever. It's the ability to, that's the top one. Obviously constrained by personality challenges. There are some brilliant people who then get constrained by a very bad personality that tend to affect performance. And you know what? All that is largely hereditary.
Oh, yeah, Walker. Okay, so you've gone there. I was not going to go there, but since you have,
go there, but we know you like to go there.
and let's take something that's very simple and straightforward, because it's a conversation that we are having, which is around Zimbabweans. Are they entrepreneurial or not? And we got to a stage where we thought, you know what, genetically, there's something to say that we are less entrepreneurial. Just from looking at it, we don't have the studies, but we are less entrepreneurial than we are managerial and professional or administrators, one could argue. And we took it's anecdotal, but I think it's very important, is we took somebody and we said, why is it Zimbabweans, when they go in the diaspora, the guys that do well are in a professional job? We never hear of the guys that go out there and now they're in good environments and they start something and they're entrepreneurial, like they say the Chinese or the Indians are. And then we just used that as an anecdotal evidence that maybe Zimbabweans were not entrepreneurial. Could you maybe expand on that?
Okay, let's start with the global innovation index, for example, where Zimbabwe is in the bottom 25.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, it is there.
Okay,
but that's hardly surprising.
Hardly in the bottom 25. Then you also go to the global talent competitiveness index. We're in the bottom 25 as well.
So what does the talent competitiveness index
It
measure?
looks at the quality of education. It looks at the quality of innovation as well. It looks at what is called cognitive capitalism, basically the quality of the output that we produce in maths, your STEM side.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the global, the talent competitiveness one. So you'll find that we're in the bottom 25, which already indicates to you that we are not as competitive in those areas as we would want to. And there are gaps, and those gaps can be closed, but not as fast.
Well, so isn't that mostly to do with awful educational outcomes?
But you remember that on the other end, we are saying Zimbabweans are brilliant, isn't it?
No, but look, we've been delusional about this idea of being the most, of being highly educated for years now. I don't think that's been true for at least 2 decades.
But and even then, if you were to then compare with the literacy, yes. On literacy.
Yeah, literacy is not education.
Yeah, it's not. That's what I wanted to say. But we are mistaking that for really talent.
Talent, yeah.
Because I hear people saying, you know what, we got so and so there, so and there, but we compare with the Nigerians.
Obviously,
compare with
the Kenyans.
Kenyans. If you've been to Kenya, I saw you there. I was on a boat there for 6 years, and I saw it. I saw firsthand. You start thinking, no, people are just
maybe. But I think that we are just not playing to our strengths.
Yes.
Because I think that there's absolutely nothing wrong with being known as good administrators.
Yeah.
Be good bureaucrats or
that's why I think
managers.
we can take the medal.
Yeah. And I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We can sell that to the world. But let's not sell this idea that we are entrepreneurial and we're innovative, because clearly the evidence suggests otherwise. And then also now when you look at genes, because that's where we started this conversation, and I want us to go deeper there. What are we saying about our ancestors?
If you look globally, you'll notice that most countries are classified according to the level of intelligence as well. And I'm sure I've seen it, and you see where we are. I know that conversation is controversial. But we must acknowledge that there are other people who are better than us by far. Naturally, because remember, cognitive ability or general mental ability is a product of genetics, and is a product of your genetics and also childhood experience. On the genetics, on the childhood experience, the biggest contributor is nutrition. Remember when you were growing up long back,
that's true.
You used to get
milk,
fresh milk and everything. All those things were done for a reason.
Yeah.
The social environment, people are into drugs, it affects your brain development. Some of them are starting very young and things like that. All those things affect the quality. There are people who are dropping out of primary school and all those things. They will eventually basically breeding criminals that are going to haunt you the next 10 years if you do that. So the genetics is there. And it's not going to go away, but there is a lot that we can do to preschool education. It need to be restructured properly so that we can benefit from the window that is there on the environment side.
What if someone accuses you of playing eugenics?
Yeah, no, they will. And I know some will do. But the issue is, I am a strong believer in scientific evidence than anything else. We can, if you've got a contrary evidence, bring it.
Okay. You know Lee Kuan Yew's argument?
No. Well, I know many of his arguments. Which one?
Okay. On genetics. So he observed that a lot of the guys out of university were marrying, women that were not as educated or, had a high school level education. And he went on a drive to say that, no, actually you shouldn't. What we need to do is to bring out the best genes out of our society. And maybe the best thing for you to do is to marry your equal. Yeah. So marry somebody who actually has a university.
Remember I shared that is some of the research with you. Yeah, you need to be careful who you marry.
So the best thing our parents can do or our fathers can do is to marry the right woman.
Person, yes. But why would that apply to other animals and not us? Why do you need a good breed for some of the animals? It's the same. You need to do that. And if I had a young brother advisor, say, look, you must look for someone who's sharpened up there.
Okay.
You reduce the burden in yourself and your kids as well.
Is that perhaps the best inheritance you can give
to your kids?
To your kids?
Yes, to your kids. Yes.
To have good genes.
Yes, you need to.
Thoughts?
Yeah.
What we are talking about has nothing to do with love.
Well, inherently, you're saying you can love anyone.
You can love anyone, but I would put a premium on loving someone who can then make sure the kids are okay.
The other thing I'm curious about in terms of these outcomes, cognitive outcomes, especially in STEM, is that I came across some material that was making the case that language plays a role, right? So apparently Mandarin and German, the nature of the language, the way it's structured, the way it forces you to think and express yourself makes you more likely to excel at STEM than...
You know why that is the case? The reason is that most people who in those languages, the abstract reasoning is very high. Okay. Unlike in other languages, we've done some analysis even locally here where we find that there are certain pockets of very low abstract reasoning, and those who always struggle.
How can we pick this up?
So is it? So what is it? The language that leads to higher abstract reasoning, or it's just a coincidence that the people who are great at high level abstract reasoning speak these languages? Where's the arrow of causality?
The people who are happen to be speaking those languages naturally, if you have checked, also very.
So it's not the language.
It's not the language.
The language is the consequence.
About the correlation between those people and the.
So if I learn Mandarin, it's not going to improve my abstract reasoning if it's low.
This is why you find that cognitive ability at our age, there's really no room to improve it.
Yeah.
This is why we are saying.
Well, they say you peak in your 20s, early 20s.
Yes, you must. In actual fact, the best time is below age of 10. That's where you must invest a lot. Even if they are your kid, you're looking after your kids. Invest a lot of time reading books, giving the books to read and things like that. That's where things happen there.
Let me give you a case study, and I want to hear your thinking around this, because I think lots of parents have this issue. So you have a kid who is very quick, but makes a lot of mistakes. And then you have a kid who is slow, but extremely thorough. how would you help the two kids?
Okay, so when I assess kids, I do assess them a lot, and I find very interesting findings. So when we assess kids, we look at verbal reasoning, numerical, abstract, mechanical reasoning, and spatial ability. Those are the 5 core. The ones that do well in verbal reasoning, and the ones that do well tend to score very high in abstract reasoning. Basically, it's a measure of your raw intelligence. Even if I give you that one test alone, it's enough to tell me that this person has got what it takes to be up there. The rest will come in terms of then choosing a career. Do you go medicine? Do you go accounting? Do you go all those things? That's the reason. But on abstract reasoning alone, it's enough for me to be able to tell you, you must pursue this career.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So those are the tests. But if all I'm getting as a parent is, well, my kid is a little slower, but they're extremely thorough. And then with the other one, very quick, but makes a lot of mistakes. How can I distinguish?
Yeah, but if I look at the data that we have, there are very few cases like that.
Okay, no, I've given you the extremes.
Yes,
because I wanted to.
If the people who are very clever rarely make those mistakes.
Okay.
But they are very few cases like that. Because if you are clever and you make those kind of, because we also test them on attention to detail.
Okay.
Or what is called perceptual speed and accuracy. Those two. So you will find that if someone is very clever, but they also make mistakes, they will do very well on abstract reasoning, but do badly on numerical and verbal reasoning. Because it needs words and you need to read and things like that. The abstract reasoning test does not have any text.
Okay, got it.
So it seems to me that there's a whole wealth of knowledge and literature around assessing human beings.
Yes.
And putting them in silos in terms of these are their strengths and weaknesses. This is, in terms of how they'll perform in particular roles and that sort of thing. And frankly, when I interact with business people, I very rarely hear this kind of language when they talk about, the
outcomes,
the people that they work with, and when they, as they're contemplating decisions, who to promote, or and
most of the international companies actually do.
So why is it that
I think they're more politically correct?
Yeah.
I think you're more, brash and out there, but they're more. So they call it psychometric testing.
Yes.
Because for me, I think that it's very dispassionate, very objective, right? You as a manager, you're probably going to get yourself out of a lot of trouble by falling back onto these methods instead of trying to wing it and use your intuition. And because chances are you have a whole bunch of blind spots and you're going to get things wrong. You know
where the challenge is? The challenge is it's also well documented. When people, if you look at the hiring, we did a study locally where we found that the prevalence of nepotism in organizations is so high that the people that end up getting the job are not the best person for the job. Because people tend to hire colleagues, people that have been referred by people, they are returning favors from church, they're returning favors from the rural areas, instead of hiring the best talent. You get very few managers who actually say, I want the best person, regardless of where they're coming from. Most of that is not happening. That's why you find all these problems. So that's why if they want to promote, they'll just say, can you come to my office? Here's the letter. You are done. No one will question me. I'm done. Whether you know what you're doing or not. So the problem starts with the quality of the manager.
So I'll go back to, then the problem is the market system is not working because that company shouldn't do well. Because if the outcome was bad.
Are there companies that are doing simply well?
Well, the listed companies, they're surviving.
They're surviving. So if you want to see that a company is doing well, you look for consistency. That's what I look for most of the time.
Okay.
To say, but also there are some people who are just lucky to be where they are. Others are monopolies, and others are just lucky to be where they are. At some stage, you know what, I had two former CEOs that I interacted with at a conference that I had organized. Then I put them on the spot. I said, do you think the success of these companies is because of you? They struggled to answer that question. And, and later on, we discovered that actually things continued when they left. It may not
So
necessarily.
you see niche,
but also look at
market structure.
Look at this. If you look at globally, what they found is that about 40% of CEO pay is explained by company size alone, and only 5% of the variance in performance is explained by the CEO's performance. So those numbers.
So true.
So I'm curious, as an analyst who looks at public companies all the time, we tend to assess management teams by the numbers. What's happening with revenue, what's happening with bottom line. Has the business been growing over the last 5-10 years? Did they make obvious blunders or obviously brilliant moves? But if I wanted to just assess a CEO or senior executive, using psychological tools,
yes.
What would you recommend I focus on?
So when you're assessing CEOs for whether you're hiring, the two things that you do. The first one is you do your psychometric assessment, mainly focus on things like your critical thinking, the ability to make decisions through what is called situational judgment tests, and also over and above that, we run a simulation of the typical role of a CEO, where you've got a board of directors who are actually assessing the person, actually doing it. For example, we can say, the CEO come and present a strategy to turn around this business, as an example. Then you present the various assessors with guidelines. They assess. In some cases, I remember one organization, we used to run it for 3 days to be able to get the right candidate for the role. For all the executive supports, we used to do that. And they used to do extremely well, even now.
Okay.
So that's the way you do it. But I think there is an attribution error somewhere where we quickly attribute success to individuals without necessarily looking at the system. This is why I encourage you to read the book called The Portability of Performance.
Okay.
I think I shared that previously on Twitter.
Okay.
Where you find a good analyst may leave your organization, go somewhere else and fail completely. Simply because they've got proprietary systems that they were using, not necessarily that they were brilliant. Okay. So
that's
if
true.
you
There's
go
a lot
into
of that.
resource intensive, good resources, good management, you go into another environment, completely fail. The same applies with some of the soccer players, I'm sure you've noticed.
Oh, yeah.
They move from Barcelona, go to Chelsea and fail. Because of those.
That says a lot about Ronaldinho then.
Yeah.
Ronaldo. Compared to Messi.
You see? That's true.
Because Messi, same team, his entire career, and then Ronaldo has changed teams
It's
and
still winning.
winning.
That shows you talent.
Talent. Okay. Let's come back to CZI and your presentation. One thing that you shared were your research, the current state, the 3 critical problems that we have. And your research reveals that we have top-heavy organizational structures. We have title inflation epidemic. We have qualification inflation.
Yeah.
Would you like to maybe expand for our
Okay,
audience?
let's start with the top heavy. So when we did the research, we found that on average, for example, the CEOs, the direct reports to the CEO, excluding the PA, it's 4.5. Okay,
The PA direct report.
So it's 4.5. When you compare to global average of about 8. Okay, remember it's
Really?
Yes.
And these are small companies compared to the globe.
Yes, but when you flatten your structure, let me give you an example. So in those kind of structures where you got 4 people reporting to the CEO, HR is reporting through admin, through finance, and IT is also reporting through finance. Instead of bringing these core capabilities direct to the CEO, because remember the CEO is not supervising people; he's getting advice. So why would the CEO want to get advice of IT nature through someone else? Given where we are going with technology, for example. Given the capabilities that we need to develop on the HR side, I wouldn't expect a CEO to get that advice through someone else, who is actually non-HR. A finance director will never be able to grasp.
Is there not legacy issues? Because we were, in the 80s, we were a socialist nation. So we wanted to have full employment.
Yeah.
So it was, we created these hierarchies and we just haven't moved on from there.
For example, if you count from the bottom, let's say you are in manufacturing and say that your last person from the core business is an operator, machine operator. You count those boxes on the organogram up to the CEO. Most of the time in Zim, we find 7, 8, 10, up to 12. Okay? But the recommended is 5. Okay, you flatten the organization. It's less costly and more efficient in terms of decision making. But that is on the basis that we've got competent people. It can be a disaster if you don't have competent people. Top structures do work in high-risk areas, nuclear, medical field, where work needs to be checked more constantly and more frequently. So you need 2, 3, 4, 5 levels of checking before you finally approve something. That's what. But in Zim, most organizations are actually overstaffed. The second is we've got too many managers managing other managers. And it adds on to the huge cost that most companies are struggling.
What if genetically we said we're bureaucrats?
We are.
So it's playing out, right?
But I also think that we inherited this during hyperinflation. It was easy to just pay people.
But surely, the world is a much smaller place, and everyone running a substantial business has access to international best practice in terms of and everybody's mindful about costs. Like in the private sector, you're just going to increase your bottom line if you have. So why is that a persistent problem where we are doing less than half the global best practice in terms of direct reports?
Yeah, but the issue is that the argument that I've heard from the research that we've done is the CEO said I can't be supervising. Globally, they don't supervise. You don't supervise your direct reports as a CEO. You get advice from those direct reports. So they are your advisors. In Zim, you're actually supervising. They are your subordinates. You see the difference.
Yeah.
That's why Tim Cook at one stage had 18 direct reports.
Wow.
But he was not supervising them. He was getting
advice. Yeah.
Them. So that's the...
I think the NVIDIA CEO... talks about having about 40-50 direct reports. That's the way he runs that operation, which is quite remarkable.
If they're advisors, you can. Because you're meeting,
and if they're direct reports, you can't.
If they're direct reports, you can't.
So which brings us back. What is the job of a CEO?
The job of a CEO is to make sure that they make strategy. Basically, it's about strategy. Making those choices about a business, what to do and what not to do. Okay, that's what I think the CEO should be doing. But most of them actually drift to operations. They're mostly operational. They are not opening doors for the business to go out there and look for opportunities and say, based on the advice that they're given, if they were in that relationship, and say, these opportunities we take, these we can't. Those are the decisions that they must make. The CEO should be anchored in the strategy side than anything else. The operations must be run by the functional heads.
Okay. And then why is it when we look at, because you bring in a very critical thing about hyperinflation and what hyperinflation has led us to be, would you say that we are now stuck in this trauma or neurosis where now we can't innovate ourselves out of whatever reality we have?
Yeah, but I think innovation is really a challenge in this country. Even if you look at it, what have we innovated? Kenya is much far ahead of us, even if you look at that global innovation index. We have seen improvements on things that are already there. There are no new things really that are coming out. Why are we not having these tech companies, for example, whatever new innovation that are coming? They are small, very small scale kind of innovations. And when you look at it, someone who is running a chicken run out there, and they think it's a big business. That can be where the global trends are going. We are seeing all these big tech companies because technology is the future. However you look at it, anyway, we seem to be very slow to adopt to technology. I was talking to some people who were really arguing that we can't use AI because of this, because of this. I said, do you think Salesforce, they are stupid to invest in AI the way they're doing? Also, the big companies, even some of the traditional international companies, they're actually investing huge in AI. And someone sitting here operating in Mzarabani is saying, I can't. And they hope to compete. Yes, if you're hoping to operate locally and constrain yourself. So,
why is adoption slow? Or non-existent in Zimbabwe?
You know, when I was trying to understand this, I also went into research to find out why is it when the calculator came, it faced the same fate. Some people saying you are not clever, you're using a calculator. Okay, the same thing now. And there's a recent research that came out last week where people, if I do my presentations, you know what I use the AI, trust goes down by 92%. People saying, so it's not you. You understand? And that is preventing people from.
So it's more perception.
Yes. In actual fact, the same it's actually an experiment. They then found that if you then say to people, you tell people in advance or after, the trust went down significantly if you told them after you've done the presentation. If you tell them before, it will go down around 80%, and after it's much higher.
More than 80%.
More than 80%. So people say, it's not referrals are higher.
It's AI.
It's AI. Yeah. You see what is happening. So that is preventing people from then applying. I wouldn't mind to be labeled using AI.
Okay.
I will use
All
it.
right. So tell me, if we were to harness, because we've really articulated the complexities and the problems that we have as Zimbabweans, and
but you mentioned something interesting from the presentation about titles.
Yeah.
I want to go into that.
Yeah.
So the issue with the titles, I'm sure you may have noticed, we have gone catching on into this group, that chief, senior, that, and everything. These are not titles that you find in most of the developed world. If you're a manager, you're a manager. If you're a sales manager, you're a manager. What is the purpose of calling you senior sales manager or a group sales manager? You understand?
True.
The one problem first is the expectations. If you were a sales manager and they now call you a group sales manager, expectations go up.
Higher salary.
More money, higher salary with no additional added
And
value.
prestige.
And prestige. Yeah. It's good for the person, but probably not very good for the bottom line when you look at that. So that's the challenge that is there. Title inflation. And people go to court really to defend the titles. You know that. If you Google now,
part of the problem is you HR consultants, because you come in and you design a structure for us and you say, if you have this title, these are the benefits that you have.
Yeah.
So that's why we go for the titles, because we know that if I'm senior manager, then I drive a C-class.
Yeah. But you see,
and if I'm a manager, I drive something else. Yeah.
So you look at, there's a website called Onet. It's a website developed by the American, it's by the Americans, but it's to do with labor, where they actually get subject matter experts who actually then develop the job descriptions for various roles. They're all there. Proper job descriptions. What you see here, they are not job descriptions. Proper job description with proper KSOs, your knowledge, skills, abilities, and other characteristics properly laid out, and what the person will be doing in that job. In this country, we use incompetence. So you come to me and say, "What do you do?" I tell them, I inflate what I do. If I'm sweeping, I say strategic sweeping, strategic cleaning, strategic running, and all that stuff. So for the job to look important. But I also then say, what qualification do you require for this role? I give you what I have, not what is required. There's a minimum. The job description must capture the minimum requirements for the job, not what you have. So someone will say, you need a master's degree because they've got a master's degree. Or you need a diploma because they've got a diploma. So it's either way. So then the same applies with experience. Most roles don't need those 7 years, 8 years experience.
True. Okay. So let's now focus on what Zimbabweans are good at and how do we harness what we're good at? Because we've really gone into what we are bad at. But what is Zimbabwe good at? And then let's lean towards that so that we maximize our output.
Yeah, I think what I have seen is that most Zimbabweans are very good at learning. Okay? An opportunity to learn. And if you give them an opportunity to learn, they will. They will learn. That's why I'm so disappointed with the adoption of AI locally, where people really have not done, even organizations have not identified the AI use cases and prioritized and said, this is where we're going to get the best value out of it. They're not doing that. But the Zimbabweans want to learn. I'm sure you have noticed.
Yes.
The Zimbabweans gone to school to learn and everything. So why not use that opportunity to, they are willing. They are willing to learn. So I will capitalize on that and then give them an opportunity to learn, especially in the technology side. I would prioritize even at a national level and say, for anyone who is looking for people who really know AI, come to Zimbabwe. I would do that, leverage on that technology, because that's the future. Yeah.
Okay. So outsourcing industry could be something that we're useful at.
Yes.
Nurses,
Yes.
I think those are very clerical jobs. That's what we're good at.
Yeah, I think if you look at the medical field, we do produce good people there. And I think if you look at how we are exporting some of the...
and tradesmen.
So speaking about exceptional talent, one of the things that piqued my Meta, which owns Facebook, was making these really outrageous offers for top AI talent. You know, I think the one guy was offered $1 billion for a 4-year contract, and it just got me thinking.
And he turned it down.
Yeah, about extremely talented individuals in that space. So, just from your experience in the world of HR, if we were to screen our top students at university doing STEM, you know, what percentage of them do you think would be that kind of talent that would, if they chose a career in AI or computer science, that, you know, 5, 10, 15 years from now could be that level that's being offered these $100 million sign-on contracts?
It's 1%. That's the number. I think I did share something that there is a recent research that has been done that the actually really top people who move the needle, there are not many, very few. The rest are average people. They'll do the job. But when you look at that guy who was offered the billion, you don't find those kind of people. We may even not find any unless we nurture them very early, which is what we are advocating. So,
because
so how do we
national
pick
treasures?
The problem, what I noticed that when we did this, remember we did that STEM program before, a very brilliant idea, but I think we then used the wrong parameters to take people into that scholarship STEM.
Okay.
You don't just pick someone on the best of their grades in A level, in O level. No. That's why you find people with straight A's, they go into A level and fail. You need to test for their cognitive ability.
A psychometric test.
Yeah, because there are people who will get a B but who are brilliant, but it's not get an A. But if your cutoff is A, it means they are going to be left out. Then you take that's why you look at the failure rate in that STEM program. It was massive because of that. So it's a selection. This is the reason why you'll find we are producing some of the best tradesmen. Do you know why? No one gets into apprenticeship without going through psychometric test.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, is that the reason?
Yeah.
I actually thought I thought it's because we actually don't have a lot of them. So when you look at the Polytechnic, it only takes in about 500
the
people.
The quality of the tradesmen that we produce in this country, it's top
great.
notch. It's top grade. It's top grade because of that. Yeah, most all these companies that are running all this, they actually take them through psychometric. You don't go through the.
Maybe explain to our audience what a psychometric test is.
Psychometric tests are tests that we use to measure human traits, especially cognitive ability, which is your general mental ability, the ability to think, or aptitude. This is natural aptitude, not what you have learned in school. So psychometric tests we don't measure what you have learned in school. We actually measure what you are given. If I wake you up at 2, I give you a psychometric test, you still get the same score even if I give you during the day. It's the same, the reliability is so high.
Okay.
So that's what you want. So companies that invest in those artisan apprenticeship, they know the value because those people are going to look after a very expensive machinery.
Okay.
So you can't take chances on them. So that's why they invest that amount. You're running a plant that is worth 500 million and you just go and pick someone from the streets. You can't do that.
That's true.
So that's why you'll find that we've got many of these tradesmen doing wonders. In actual fact, that's why you must celebrate. If Zimbabwe was to produce those in large quantities, we will be somewhere.
I actually think that's where, because if we say we're not entrepreneurial and we're more managerial and tradesmen, that means that we're actually high in conscientiousness.
Yes.
That generally we're high in conscientiousness as a nation, and we need to focus more and harness that and less, this entrepreneurial, because I think we glorify this idea of being,
The results are showing. Where are the results?
So just to get a little bit philosophical about this, to say, there's this idealized vision of you complete your A levels and then you go to university. That's what's best for everyone. But perhaps I suspect if we were to go psychometric at O level or even Form 2 level, we might actually recommend a whole bunch of people not bother going further formal education and go into apprenticeship, go into trade, and we might actually be better off in terms of
we actually do that.
Allocate.
We are actually doing that every week for other parents who are enlightened. We do that. Yes, I do that every week.
Okay.
Assess students from all these. Mostly they're coming from your Group A schools. They bring their kids, all of them. Sometimes we start Form 1. All of them. We assess them and say, look, this one, let them go to poly. They will get a very good career. And we got feedback. It's only that some parents don't know. I was talking to some of them and said, why don't you share your testimonies? We said, look, this one, don't take them to university. You will lose money when in there. And most parents don't want to hear that. But so many of them have lost their savings. Because they've taken someone into A-level, they get 0 points. Okay? Then they go back and want to do apprenticeship. By that time, they're already over the age of apprenticeship. So you see what the disadvantages. Then they say, okay, let me now go to poly, look at the 2 years wasted. Because of disappointment, they will have another extra year wasted of thinking and say, what happened to me?
So why did we turn all these polytechnics and trade schools to universities?
In actual fact, that's a mistake. Those ones, we should actually have more polytechnics than universities. And it will be somewhere. Even in terms of look at our manufacturing. We need those tradesmen. Mining, manufacturing, we need those tradesmen to be doing that. We can do the same in IT. Okay? We produce those developers in large quantities. Just the way we are doing apprenticeship. I would invest probably half of the education budget into something like that.
Okay. Yeah. I'm told that we've run out of time, but maybe the final question is for a professional manager, somebody who's right now who's a manager. How should they divide their time, and what outcomes should they be looking at? What are the top 3 things that they should be worried about on a daily basis?
Okay, the first thing is for them to set direction for their staff. We agree what needs to be done and leave people to do it. Okay, that's number one. Because most people don't do it well there. You agree, this is what I want you to do. I don't interfere in how you do it. We'll sit down next week and look how far you have gone. We have agreed on a timeline for us to deliver that. Then also giving feedback, that's key, and developing your staff. Those are the key issues that I think you should, depending on level. But if you're executive and everything, you then must also look at strategy. How are you fitting into the strategy? What choices are you making? Remember, the other challenge that we face is that most people think they don't want a strategy or they don't have. In actual fact, every organization has got a strategy, whether written or not written, because you're making choices about your business to invest.
And daily you are. Daily. Yeah.
And that is the strategy. The moment, because remember, strategy is an integrated set of choices that compel people that you don't control to act in your favor, especially the customer. And you're making those choices every day, whether you got a strategy or not. What product to give, what service to offer, what not to do and what not to do, which capacity, which capability to invest in, everything. Those are the things that I wish more CEOs could actually get to that level where they're really focusing on strategy and leave the functional heads to do the rest of the stuff. Yeah.
Well, I wish this could happen every day or every other day. Memory, it's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Scintillating.
Yeah, absolutely. To the audience, I hope you found this as riveting as we have. And these are the sort of discussions that you have at CZI Conference. And thanks to our sponsors, BAT, Delta, and Old Mutual, and Kefalos. Cheers.